February 8, 2026. Shockwaves ripped through the House of Windsor this week following a bombshell revelation that's poised to completely overhaul not just Prince Harry's personal life, but the entire royal playbook on child custody. In a fiery off-the-record comment leaked to The Times, Harry reportedly drew a line in the sand. "Princess Anne would never stand for my kids being neglected under the guardianship rules, and I'm not about to start now." He spoke with a grit and determination we haven't seen from him since he walked away from the firm back in 2020. That remark has sparked a firestorm of rumors about his crumbling marriage, the fate of his children, and the looming legal war inside the palace. It looks like the final nail in the coffin for his union with Meghan Markle. Reporters on the royal beat point out that this is the first time Harry has ever openly invoked the royal guardianship protocol. It's an obscure legal lever that lets the crown step in immediately if a royal child's safety, identity, or mental health is on the line. Sources claim Harry sounded calm but dead serious, signaling he's done with Meghan and is getting back in formation with heavy hitters like Princess Anne, Prince Edward, and Queen Camilla. "He isn't waving a white flag," one insider told The Telegraph. "He's firing a warning shot. He's drawing a boundary and bringing the whole institution with him." The last time anyone saw Harry and Meghan out together was December 18, 2025. At the Global Impact Awards in LA, a corporate gala thrown by Amazon Studios. They only showed up because of a contract worth a reported $3.5 million to plug a stalled docuseries called Legacy: Beyond the Crown. People in the room said the vibe was freezing cold. Meghan looked completely checked out, and Harry did everything he could to dodge the press. One Hollywood player noted they didn't look like partners pushing a cause. They looked like two employees punching the clock. Fast forward 6 weeks, and Harry pulling that guardianship card basically confirms what everyone was whispering about. The Sussex marriage is tanking hard. According to court sources in LA, Harry has hired Laura Wasser, the divorce lawyer you call when things get ugly. She's the shark who handled Kim Kardashian and Johnny Depp. The legal paperwork reportedly hit the courts in the last week of January 2026, asking for full custody of Archie and Lilibet. The claim is that Meghan Markle ditched her mom responsibilities to chase brand deals in Dubai and Doha. She allegedly spent over 110 days overseas in 2025, often without even giving a heads up to the Guardians or the UK office. Harry's lawyers handed over border entry logs, proving just how often she was out of the country. They also leaked internal emails from Archewell, suggesting she signed a deal with a Doha media group for a solo wellness show that didn't involve the kids at all. School officials in Santa Barbara also weighed in, flagging that tuition hadn't been paid since November 2025, and the kids were suddenly pulled out. A source close to the case said, "This isn't about sour grapes, it's about neglect." Harry's making the case that she's a businesswoman first and a mother distant second. In a rare move, the palace put out a legal statement on February 2, 2026, confirming they triggered the guardianship protocols due to extreme circumstances. Princess Anne, who's always been the family's enforcer, got the green light to start joint legal proceedings. She's working with the High Court in the UK and the California Superior Court under a 2024 agreement called the Windsor-California Reciprocal Protection Accord. Within hours, the kids' passports for both the US and the UK were locked down. Any business deals using their names were put on ice. A royal memo stated plainly, the Crown won't let its minor descendants be turned into cash cows. Between February 4th and 6th, Prince Edward ran a quiet security operation. The kids were moved to a secure royal safe house, likely Wolverton Cottage near Sandringham. A palace aide explained, "We weren't trying to hide them, we were trying to get them on solid ground. They're currently under 24-hour supervision with a child psychologist from the Royal Pediatric Trust and barely any contact with the outside world." Harry also stunned the California school scene by officially pulling both kids out of Santa Barbara Prep Academy. On February 2nd, the press pounced on the unpaid tuition news, painting a picture of a household in financial chaos. From February 1st through the 7th, Meghan reportedly tried to reach the kids several times, but every call was routed through court mediators. Harry's lawyers stood firm. No talking unless his legal team and the welfare supervisor gave the okay. An insider described the tactic as harsh but essential. It's not punishment, it's containment until the dust settles. The message was short 42 words sent at 7:13 a.m. GMT. It confirmed Prince Harry, Duke of Sussex, had filed as a joint petitioner for protective guardianship. He cited a breach of the custodial framework and asked for an immediate review under the revised Royal Minor Protections Act of 2025. The signature on the document was one we haven't seen on official papers in a long time. His Royal Highness, Prince Henry Charles Albert David. It left experts floored. After 2 years of subtle digs and playing the victim, Harry finally crossed the Rubicon. He flipped the switch. His lawyers followed up with more documents for the High Court, including a private file with voice notes and testimony from the Montecito house. A summary shared with the Welfare Committee claims Harry listed 7 times in the last 4 months where Meghan cut him out of big decisions about the kids' schooling, privacy, and travel. One particular instance really jumped out. On January 12, 2026, Meghan reportedly signed a letter of intent to pull the kids out of the California Day Preparatory Academy without Harry's signature. Stapled to that same document was an inquiry about transferring to a media-friendly custom education provider in Dubai, which triggered instant worry at the palace. Meghan's note claimed the reason for the move was geostrategic visibility and maintaining brand continuity. 2 days later, Harry texted Princess Anne. That message is now part of the historical record. I don't know how to stop this anymore. If I don't do something, my children will just be platforms. I'd rather be hated for protecting them than loved for staying blind. It was that emotional confession that pushed Princess Anne to schedule an emergency meeting with the Lord Chamberlain, Lady Louise Windsor, Duchess Sophie, and the King's private secretary. The agenda was to trigger Clause 8 of the Custodial Independence Statute, a rarely used rule that gives the Crown emergency power. This power allows them to override a foreign parent's unilateral attempt to move the kids if the children are deemed vulnerable to image commercialization, psychological instability, or excessive surveillance. Behind the scenes, Harry handed over a timeline to back up his case. Here is what the Royal Chronicle has verified from internal records. In October 2025, Meghan allegedly set up a photo shoot for Lilibet with a luxury skincare sponsor in Los Angeles without getting Harry's consent first. In November 2025, Archie appeared in a branded holiday video posted by Meghan's media team. Harry reportedly knew nothing about it beforehand and was devastated. Then came December 2025. Meghan booked flights to Abu Dhabi with plans to have the children appear at a royal-themed gala, completely bypassing the travel notifications required by the Windsor Accord. By January 2026, Harry's access to the children was restricted to just 2 video calls a week, supervised by a publicist in the room. Taken together, these actions painted a grim picture, not just of a couple drifting apart, but of a calculated exclusion. The palace legal brief concluded that Meghan was effectively treating the children's royal ties like commercial equity. Even worse, it alleged that Meghan's team had requested AI-generated family reenactment content using the children's likenesses without permission from either the Crown or Harry. By February 8th, 2026, the tide had completely turned. Harry formally agreed to Princess Anne's offer to move temporarily to Grey House, a secluded estate in Windsor's high-security zone designated for vulnerable royal minors. Although the children hadn't moved yet, the planning was in motion and the symbolic weight was massive. Meghan's camp responded with fury. In a leaked voice memo believed to be recorded after the Grey House offer, Meghan can be heard saying, "They've manipulated him. Anne is brainwashing him. And if they think they're getting my kids, they'll have to burn me down first. But Harry stood his ground. For the first time in 2 years, his public appearance told a different story. On February 9th, he arrived unannounced at Clarence House, where he was photographed entering through the sovereign's wing rather than the Sussex courtyard. No Netflix crew, no Archewell branding, just Harry in a black coat carrying a single briefcase and a stuffed Paddington bear, Lilibet's favorite toy. The symbolism wasn't lost on anyone, and neither was the next line from his formal statement. I was once told by my wife that royalty was a trap. But maybe what's worse is when children are used to unlock someone else's brand. That's not love, that's leverage. It was a line that rang like a bell across the Atlantic and sounded like the beginning of Meghan Markle's reckoning. In a twist that sent shockwaves through legal hallways in both California and Buckingham Palace, Prince Harry filed an emergency petition on February 9, 2026, at the Santa Barbara Family Law Court. The petition, titled Declaration of Protective Intent for Minor Heirs of the House of Windsor, was more than just a custody plea. It was a bold manifesto. In a 47-page document submitted by attorney Miles Armitage, Harry cited growing concerns over Meghan Markle's parenting. He pointed to an abandonment of maternal duties, prioritizing Middle Eastern investments over childcare, and an increasing emotional detachment in the household. Most damning was the attached declaration, a confidential letter allegedly from Lilibet, Diana's former Montessori teacher, stating the young girl had asked if her mother had a new family in Dubai. The petition didn't request full legal custody immediately. Instead, it sought what Harry called a structured institutional guardianship transition, invoking the 2022 Windsor Accord Clause. This clause allows the royal family to assume educational and welfare guardianship over minor heirs during times of marital separation, international relocation, or reputational crisis. That reference set off alarm bells in legal and royal circles alike. For the royal household, however, this came as no surprise. It was confirmation. Multiple insiders confirmed that Princess Anne, as head of the Royal Custodial Oversight Committee, had seen this coming. She had anticipated this scenario months earlier and quietly prepared a legal framework known internally as Protocol St. George. The protocol included provisions for dual sovereign guardianship, British court recognition of custody claims across the Atlantic, and backup plans. It covered contingencies in case of parental incapacitation, whether emotional, reputational, or otherwise. Upon learning of the filing, Prince William held a private strategy meeting at Clarence House with Catherine, Duchess of Cornwall and Cambridge, and the Lord President of the Privy Council. The meeting wrapped up with 2 decisive moves. First, Princess Catherine would be authorized to release a public welfare statement confirming her personal bond with Archie and Lilibet and affirming her readiness to step in as a partial guardian if needed. Second, William would invoke his acting sovereign authority, granted temporarily, following King Charles's move in December to greenlight a royal council request sent to the British Embassy in Washington, D.C., asking for initial protective status for the Windsor descendants currently living out in California. This diplomatic play put the UK Foreign Office in a pretty tight spot. A secret memo leaked to the London Evening Tribune later exposed orders from Sir Malcolm Bentham, the Undersecretary for Sovereign Affairs, telling embassy personnel to recognize the unique constitutional standing of the Windsor minors and invoke Section 14 of the Royal Heirs Treaty of 2017. That section permits tracking and registering royal kids overseas for protection if there is a real threat to their safety, schooling, or royal standing. When Meghan Markle got wind of Harry's filing, she reportedly went into what a staffer at her Brentwood home described as an icy, terrifying rage. Her personal legal squad, headed by entertainment lawyer Sherry Tilden, fired back with a heated counter statement, claiming Harry trampled on every rule of co-parenting and was orchestrating a British imperialist plot to grab the kids for royal PR. But that pushback crumbled once the hard evidence came to light. Less than 24 hours after her statement, a stack of documents surfaced from anonymous leakers thought to be inside Archewell's digital ops team. The leak featured a private security file mapping out Meghan's long-term stay in Dubai through 2026, plus a hidden school withdrawal slip signed by Meghan, dated January 28th, and worst of all, an internal branding memo detailing Project Emancipation, a plan to rebrand Meghan as a sovereign mogul free from family ties. As these details hit the news cycle, public opinion started swinging hard in the other direction. A February 10th Daily Mirror survey showed that 71% of people across the UK, Canada, and Australia favored handing custody of Archie and Lilibet over to trusted royal agents. In the States, a shocking 52% of Californians backed limited royal supervision if it was best for the kids. These numbers shook Meghan's American media friends, with many backing away from what looked more like a raw power grab than a legitimate custody battle. Meanwhile, Princess Anne kept her usual public silence while making some serious moves behind the scenes. She called an emergency meeting of the Sovereign Guardianship Advisory Council over at Sandringham. Two things came out of it: a unanimous vote letting the Crown file a friend of the court brief in Harry's case, and a green light for a secure, UK-based school plan designed for the kids' needs if custody changed hands. Lady Louise Windsor, serving as Anne's private secretary for global youth matters, was quietly sent to the U.S. to draft a report called Windsor Heirs Under Duress, a transatlantic safeguarding review. Insiders confirmed that Louise, who bonded with Lilibet during earlier family getaways, would act as the go-between if emergency visitation got approved. As the lawsuits piled up and global news coverage hit a frenzy, one question hung over every headline. Was this just a custody fight, or the start of a major shift in the Windsor legacy? For Prince Harry, this wasn't just court drama, it was his redemption story. For the royal family, it was a moment to fix the institution itself. And for the kids stuck in the crossfire, it was the start of a chapter that would cement their spot in royal history for good. By the 5th of February, 2026, the Royal Household Child Welfare Committee met under Princess Anne's orders to launch emergency countermeasures. During a critical sit-down at Windsor Castle, Prince William and Princess Anne, alongside top lawyers and experts from the Royal College of Pediatrics, went over Meghan Markle's most recent infractions, like skipping court-ordered video calls and taking unauthorized business trips to Dubai and Doha, while Archie and Lilibet should have been in school. The last straw was a document intercepted from a French fashion label, a leaked memo showing Meghan trying to launch a kids' wellness brand featuring stylized sketches of her own children. The committee saw this as a blatant attempt at commercial parasitism, exploiting royal minors for unauthorized luxury marketing. On February 6 at 9:45 in the morning, Prince William triggered a rare clause in the royal family custodial sovereignty charter, officially enacting the Guardianship Protocol of 2026. This order put Archie and Lilibet under the direct joint custody of the Crown, specifically William, Catherine, and Princess Anne, until their 18th birthdays, or until a complete psych and legal evaluation wrapped up. The decree was sealed and notarized by the Royal Court of Clerks and enforced via a diplomatic note sent to U.S. authorities through the British consulate in Los Angeles. The fallout was instant. Meghan, who had just touched down in Los Angeles for a Vogue interview, got word on her way to the set that her visitation rights were suspended pending a compliance review. Her reaction, caught by paparazzi, shifted from visible panic to disbelief, and finally to seething rage. Meghan's camp accused the palace of overstepping, but legal analysts pointed out that her repeated rule-breaking, erratic travel, and commercial use of the kids had voided several prior custody guarantees in the Windsor Accord. In a related twist, Harry's signed waiver from January, giving up sole custody claims to speed up the divorce, was used as more legal ammo to activate the protocol. While not a total disavowal, it seriously undercut Meghan's position. She was no longer the only guardian on the books, and her actions were looking more like violations of the ethical and legal standards agreed to back in early 2020, post-Megxit. Meanwhile, the children stayed at a secret location in the UK, reportedly under tight security and the care of Crown pediatric staff. Catherine was spotted visiting a kids' therapy center in Windsor, sparking rumors that the young royals were getting settled into routine counseling and school programs. Public reaction was split down the middle. Some media outlets slammed the move as harsh, while others praised it as long overdue. 3 top child psychology experts penned a joint op-ed backing the palace, highlighting the severe mental toll placed on kids caught between warring narratives and treated as branding assets by a parent. Social media lit up with hot takes. One viral post read, "They aren't handbags to accessorize, they're children. Thank heavens the Crown stepped in." Others pushed back, arguing, "This is just William grabbing power and calling it compassion." Meanwhile, the silence from Harry was deafening. He had effectively ghosted the public since that podcast tape leaked back in January. Gossip mills churned with talk that he had voluntarily checked into a mental health clinic, while others claimed he was hunkered down in Scotland, getting a reality check from Princess Anne. Regardless, he had stopped defending Meghan's moves and lost his standing to manage the daily lives of Archie and Lilibet. Meghan, now cut off from her kids and dissected by the press, executed a tactical pivot. She filed a preliminary appeal in the California courts, trying to firewall any guardianship mandates coming from Britain. However, legal analysts noted that dual-citizen minors attached to royal treaties and security clearances rarely fall under standard local jurisdiction. The Court of International Family Law Cooperation, having already logged the royal household's paperwork, affirmed that the matter would proceed under a specialized hybrid legal framework. Her odds of regaining the upper hand through standard litigation were basically zero. Adding insult to injury, Paris Fashion Week formally rescinded her invite that week, pointing to the swirling drama and bad PR risk. She wasn't just ghosted, she was blackballed. Vogue, Chanel, and 3 other luxury labels initiated shadow bans after a leaked text between creative heads labeled her radioactive and a liability. The hashtag unfit maternal commercialist went global. While the world looked on and the palace stood tall, Meghan Markle faced a level of solitude unseen since Megxit. February 2026 took a grim turn as a powerful institution made a hard play to rescue what it viewed as a threatened royal legacy. On the heels of exposing Meghan's covert plot to pull Archie and Lilibet off the grid, the palace legal team triggered the Windsor Protocol for emergency custodial oversight. Prince William, armed with constitutional powers signed over by King Charles weeks earlier, spearheaded the operation. A courier delivered a classified notice to her Los Angeles legal team, warning that any cross-border travel with the minors without written Crown approval violated the Windsor Accord. It cited Article 7, Section 3. No direct descendant of the Windsor line may establish residence outside Commonwealth supervision without sovereign alert. Meghan's squad brushed the letter off as imperial nonsense with no weight in California, but the Crown's countermove caught them flat-footed. They filed a British-American Joint Custodial Intervention Order, a dusty but valid clause from the Cold War era designed to stop the abduction of diplomats' children. The motion landed on dockets in both the United Kingdom and Washington, D.C. at the exact same moment. Simultaneously, the Windsor Child Welfare Committee broadcasted a red-level alert. Princess Anne, moving with steely determination, tasked Lady Louise and Duchess Sophie to coordinate directly with MI5 Council and British consular officials in Los Angeles. Their mandate was explicit: stop any unapproved movement of Archie and Lilibet outside Southern California and set up a discreet 24/7 welfare monitoring system alongside Interpol's Youth Protection Unit. In the public eye, Prince Harry remained totally silent regarding this legal surge. Sources suggested he was blindsided by the sheer velocity and precision of his family's response. Conversely, Meghan convened a frantic press conference, labeling the royal maneuvers as neo-imperial bullying, insisting her children were free American citizens, untethered to archaic bloodline rules. However, her defense crumbled that same week. British investigators leaked a contract showing Meghan signed a non-disclosure agreement in 2020, consenting to the Windsor custody protocols as the price for keeping her Duchess title post-exit. Two royal archivists quietly authenticated screenshots of the provision. The palace kept its lips sealed, but the impact was explosive. Vogue, The Times, and even CNN ran biting editorials with headlines like Runaway Titles, Royal Pawns, and The Sovereign Strikes Back, while Meghan's camp screamed that the monarchy was weaponizing obscure loopholes. The tide of public opinion turned. For the masses, securing Archie and Lilibet began to look less like cruelty and more like necessary containment. Throwing gas on the fire, a flight manifest leaked, revealing Meghan had booked a private jet for February 6th from Van Nuys to Dubai, days before the school truancy raised flags. Although she insisted it was a business run, the children were listed as pre-cleared passengers. That flight log, paired with her previous voicemail, anchored a new motion from the Crown to strip away all international travel rights. Back at Sandringham, Princess Catherine was photographed reading bedtime stories to Charlotte and Louis. Photos that instantly went viral, viewed as a quiet but heavy statement on what real parenting looks like. Meanwhile, in Montecito, the hammer dropped. The royal family wasn't budging, and Meghan Markle realized she wasn't fighting a broken system, but an impenetrable fortress. By the morning of February 10th, 2026, the full force of the Crown bore down on Prince Harry and the ruins of his once powerful pact with Meghan. The chaos of the prior 9 days, the bombshell leaks, the Saudi dossier, the exposed contracts, and the public revolt had not only shattered the post-exit myth the Sussexes built, but also carved a permanent line in the sand. Under the looming walls of Windsor's North Terrace, the royal family gathered that morning for one last, decisive summit. Leading the assembly was Princess Anne, acting in her capacity as the Lord High Chancellor, while Prince William sat at her right hand, filling the role of acting monarch. King Charles, still following doctor's orders, patched in through a high-security video feed. With the Privy Council and top legal scholars in the room, the clock struck 9 a.m. sharp. That's when Anne broke the seal on the Sussex Protocols, formerly known as the Instrument of Total Disassociation. Signed by the King, backed by William, and cleared by every top official, this decree was absolute and legally binding. It laid out 6 non-negotiable terms, starting with the complete removal of all titles. Every single honorific, style, and privilege held by Harry, Meghan, or their kids was wiped out for good. They grounded this move in the Sovereign Titles Act of 1842 and the 2024 Succession Reform Protocols, triggering a secret codicil left by Queen Elizabeth II. The Crown cut off any right for Harry or his offspring to inherit property, funds, or ceremonial duties tied to the royal or Spencer lines. Next came the custodial override, enforced through the child protection clauses of the Windsor Accords. Control over the education and raising of Archie and Lilibet shifted to a neutral guardian, a role Duchess Sophie of Edinburgh stepped into effectively immediately. Then, the breach of trust enforcement. The palace announced lawsuits against the Archewell Foundation for fraud, cooking the books, and misusing royal crests. The UK Charities Commission and the Privy Seal were set to manage the dismantling of the organization together. A public statement clause gave the palace a green light to drop any footage or documents needed to defend the Crown's image. This effectively killed the old never complain, never explain strategy when it came to the Sussexes. Finally, a sunset order gave Prince Harry exactly 30 days to scrub his old titles from every business and legal site. If he refused, assets would be frozen and lawsuits filed in Britain and America. The room went dead quiet as Anne finished. William inked the last page in black, declaring gravely, "The age of exceptions is done. Now we have order." By noon, the press release hit the wires cold, precise, and carrying a heavy sense of finality. It stated that the king, backed by his counsel and legal experts, had legally severed all ties with Henry Charles Albert David Windsor. The statement emphasized that the British monarchy stands on a foundation of duty, trust, and accountability. Those values are non-negotiable. Within 10 minutes, the news was trending globally. Anchors from LA to Lagos and Delhi to Dubai broadcast the breaking news, while social media blew up with hot takes. People were split, with some cheering the crown's backbone and others mourning the family drama. Yet, experts and historians all agreed on one thing: nothing like this had ever happened before. Even Edward VIII's abdication didn't cut ties this deeply. Meghan, rumored to be in Dubai, stayed completely silent. Her reps just put out a generic blurb about needing privacy to heal. Back in London, Harry was seen in a VIP lounge at Heathrow, looking ghostly pale and gripping an old leather satchel. Rumor has it he isn't flying back to the States anytime soon, not until the custody battle is settled. Later that night, Princess Anne dropped a rare video statement on the official royal YouTube page, decked out in her full military regalia. Looking straight down the lens, she stated, "We had to make these choices for the country, the children's well-being, and the crown's honor. We refuse to let our identity be shaped by manipulation, negligence, or exploitation. Duty is bigger than personal beefs. It holds the line and outlasts everything." She didn't stutter or look away. It was the ultimate mic drop from the monarchy. As for the Sussexes, the door is shut. No appeals, no comebacks, just a hard road of consequences ahead.